I said it going into the game Saturday against Canada. I will say it again about this championship game, hopefully even more so. This will be an event, a landmark event, and hopefully a watershed moment, of which there have been a few in USA hockey fandom. This is a really important game, which I think everyone would have to admit, even the ones who still don't love this tournament, that this has become a way more important thing than anyone thought it was going to be 3 or 4 weeks ago. There was the people like me and us hockey diehards who were like, yes, best on best again. I don't care what it looks like. Like, I don't care that the Russians aren't in there. It would be better if they were, but who cares? We're here. Our team, Canada, is there too. Best on best. Let's do this thing. We've been waiting for this for so long. And then there were a lot of other people, including some hockey diehards, who were saying, this is made up. It's fugazi. There's no history. And you don't have the Russians and the Czechs. It's the NHL. It's just an advertisement. Yeah. I think those people are wrong. Okay. And I think a lot of them have turned around in the midst of this tournament. This has been a ton of fun. The players really care. And it is made for some top-notch entertainment at a time where hockey and the NHL could really use it. I was listening to Spittin' Chicklets yesterday. They had a great episode with Jeff Merrick, I think was his name. And he was saying about it. He's a Canadian guy. He wasn't big into this tournament when it started, but he said this is a capital H hockey event. And it's the first one. It has no heritage and no future. This is likely going to be the only Four Nations tournament there is. And 20 years from now, the trophy will be collecting dust in a resource center somewhere for the Hockey Hall of Fame. And that might be true, but that doesn't mean it's not going to mean anything. How many times the Summit Series happened? It was still one of the biggest events in the history of the game. This is going to be the moment that brings it back, because we're going to have best on best tournaments, World Cup of Hockey, and the Olympics, which people are going to care more about. It's going to have more of a name brand attached to it, but this is going to be the thing that gets it started. And it's a terrific advert for the NHL. Terrific. And it's not just us, the fans, thinking about it, which is what makes this great. The players care about it. Like some of the players who have really accomplished a lot in this game care about it. Sidney Crosby, what more could you accomplish in the game? 600 goals, a couple MVP awards, 3 Stanley Cups, one of the 10 best players ever to play the sport. And yet he was holding out of some games with the Penguins leading up to this tournament so that he could play in this. Okay? Or Matthew Tkachuk, Stanley Cup champion, one of the best players in the league, one of the faces of the league. He's dropping the gloves a second into the game on Saturday. And Jack Eichel, another guy who has won the Stanley Cup, played in the national championship game in college, played in the Beanpot, number 2 overall pick in the draft, all these plaudits headed towards the Hall of Fame. And here's what he had to say about this.
Means the world. I mean, you're representing your country. This is huge. It's the biggest game. It's the biggest game I've played in quite some time. So maybe ever. I'm really looking forward to it. I think everyone in the room's looking forward to it, and it's what we wanted, right?
Maybe the biggest game he's ever played in. The guy has won the Stanley Cup. He's played in the national championship game in college. He's played in the World Juniors. And he's saying this fake tournament, this Fugazi Four Nations tournament final is the biggest game he's maybe ever played in. That's what makes this shit great. That's what makes this tournament awesome right there. And that's why this is going to be an event for hockey. I saw another article yesterday. It was on Barstool. And I can't remember who wrote it. I'm sorry. But they said, there's been talks the last few days of what the NBA can do to splice up their All-Star game weekend the way that, that the NHL just did with the Four Nations Faceoff. And whoever wrote it made the perfect point. They can't. The NBA cannot replicate what the NHL is doing with Four Nations. And that's what made the lack of best on best tournaments so frustrating, because really hockey is the only sport that can pull this off. That on a consistent basis for 50 years now, whenever they've been able to do a best on best tournament, it's been a huge hit. And there's been guys who really want to be out there, really want to represent their country. There's real intensity involved and real stakes involved. They're the only ones that's been able to do that. You know, not just the Olympics, but also the World Cup of Hockey, the Summit Series, the Canada Cup, which becomes the World Cup of Hockey, and now the Four Nations. It's worked every time. The NBA, I'd like to see them do like a USA versus the world thing. I think that would be nice, but it's not going to be this. It's not going to have the buildup this is going to have. It's not going to have the intensity and the hatred and the passion that this has. No way. Baseball's tried it for 20 years now with this World Baseball Classic. It's not even close. And real hardcore baseball fans want to tell you how great it is. It's not. It does not have the same passion, the same intensity, the same stakes that these hockey players have. And obviously football, you can't do it. There's two sports that can do it. It's soccer and it's hockey. The NBA just inherently, it cannot replicate this. And if the U.S. wins this, which is no guarantee, even though they're a better team than Canada, as I said yesterday, Canada wins these games. If the U.S. wins this, it will birth the new great international rivalry. Because forever, since you know, the last 50, 60 years, since international hockey rivalries have been a thing, it's been Canada and Russia. And to a smaller extent, the U.S. and Russia, and to a middle extent in there, the U.S. versus Canada. So U.S.-Canada has been a rivalry for sure, but it was always Canada and Russia. Those were the two best. And Russia's still pretty damn good. But these next 5 or 10 years, we've already seen it with the World Juniors and the rosters that are here. It's going to be the U.S. versus Canada. Those are the two best hockey nations in the world. Those are the two best teams. And this is just the beginning of it. We're going to get so sick of they might build a moat between Canada and the U.S. after all these best on best tournaments are done. You think the tariffs are bad? You think the 51st state thing is bad? There might be a war after all of this. This is just the tipping point. This is the tip of the iceberg of what is going to be the best international rivalry in all of hockey. U.S. versus Canada, it starts now. And you know what? As someone who's been real cocky about this U.S. team and how good this roster is, how it's better than Canada, as someone who's been banging that drum this whole time, the U.S. needs to win this game. Like, the win against Canada in Canada is great and everything, but they need to win the title. It's been since 1996 that they've won a best on best at the senior level. Canada wins them all the time. Since the U.S. last won, they won in 2002 the gold medal. They won the World Cup of Hockey. They won the 2010 gold medal. They won the 2014 gold medal. They won the 2016 World Cup of Hockey. They win all the best on best tournaments. The U.S. has to win one. Beating them in the group stage is great. It's a good step, and it got a great audience. It's good for hockey. But the U.S. has to win this thing and really show, hey, we can do it at this level as well. 96 was a long time ago. We're here to do it again. And that will really set this thing off for Milan and the next World Cup of Hockey and 2030 Olympics. Going to be fantastic. But it starts with the U.S. needing to win this. And also, to the Canadian fans who are bitching this isn't in Montreal, okay? You guys got the guaranteed game in Montreal, all right? Like, we need like an overtime goal for Canada in order to get this game in Boston. So you guys lucked out there. Boston needs to step up, and the U.S. needs to win this thing because this is where they lose to Canada. If they win this, hockey may never be the same again. Full stop.
We are Rogue Media Sports.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. And if you like this video, be sure to give us a like and subscribe. It really helps out the channel a ton. You can follow me on Twitter here for some more outrageous Boston sports takes coming to you every weekday at noon Eastern time. And then after that, wherever you get your podcasts.
We are Rogue Media Sports.